Q30B, which was the final question of the exam from the improving performance option, was a 12-mark question, and the question read, analyse the benefits and limitations of drug testing in sport. This proved quite challenging for some boys, and we'll just have a look at the syllabus, and this is probably a little bit why, because it can be considered, I suppose, an obscure or one of the lesser dot points, but it comes under the dot point of use of drugs, and in particular the benefit and limitations of drug testing. That last one there. There would be components of, or some of the other elements of the dot point could be discussed, but primarily we're looking at the limitations and the benefits of drug testing. So that's where it comes from in terms of the syllabus. The key word that we're dealing with here again is an analyse, and as pointed out earlier in another question, analyse is one of the more difficult and challenging of the key words. It asks to identify the components and the relationship between them, draw out and relate the implications. So that's what we're challenged to do in this question. If we have a look at the marking criteria, for the top band requires us to analyse a broad range of benefits and limitations of drug testing in sport. So both elements of benefits and limitations. I guess that was one area that some boys fell down. They made a decision about whether or not they thought benefits outweighed the limitations, or the other way around. Some boys decide that limitations of drug testing outweighed the benefits and argued that way, but you needed to look at both benefits and limitations of drug testing in sport, and then with that make a discussion based on what those limitations were and what the implications of those limitations were. You needed to present your ideas in a clear and logical manner, and a cohesive manner, so that means that you set it out well and you planned your answer well, and that your ideas flowed from one spot to the next. And you also need to illustrate with relevant examples. So that was what we're looking for in terms of to get a top band mark here. Some of the areas that you could have and should have and needed to discuss were in terms of the benefits of drug testing. You may have discussed what drug testing was first of all, and why drug testing has come about to what we have in today's world. But in terms of the benefits, drugs allow athletes to improve beyond their natural ability and must be stopped. So in terms of the fairness and equity of all athletes, that would be something that you would have discussed about. Drug testing creates that. Drug testing stops drugs undermining the credibility and the purity of competition. So in that respect, it upholds the value of the competition in which the athletes are participating in. The protection and the promotion of long-term health for athletes would be another element that would be a benefit, most definitely, and hopefully one of the primary ones that people would have discussed. And I guess another benefit could have been the disincentive that drug testing provides for the use by or those who are considering to using drugs. Those tests would definitely be a disincentive for those who thought that they may have been caught. That may be enough to stop them from using drugs. The limitations of drug testing, so this would be the next element that you would have needed to discuss in your answer. Historically, drug testing has been unsuccessful, but people continue to use drugs and continue to try to take drugs to improve their performance. So historically we haven't been successful in trying to create drug tests that stop athletes from using these particular drugs. Drug testing invades the privacy and decreases the flexibility of the lives of athletes. So being available and having the ability for drug testers to go into an athlete's home at any time of the day, or to impose a drug test on them at any time of the year, that certainly takes away some of the privacy of the athletes' lives, and that would be another limitation. The fact that testing struggles to keep up with the development of new drugs. There's always new drugs that are being used by athletes, and so much so that some of the drugs, in terms of the fact that it's genetic doping, may never be testable. So those are the things that you would have and should have and needed to discuss in your answer. Some boys needed to look at some of those areas and have some thought as to what needed to be put into their answer, because they didn't actually discuss what the question was asking about drug testing. Some boys went down the path of looked at different types of drugs that were actually tested, and the advantages and disadvantages, or limitations and benefits of those types of drugs, which wasn't actually answering the question. So it's important for us to answer the question and read the question. If we look at an exemplar response, this particular response, straight into, again, what it is that the question is asking. It talks about what drug testing is, and talks about some of the limitations that are associated with the nature of drug testing. Goes through the limitations first, which is fine. Some students decided to flick from limitation to benefit, which I found lacked clarity in your answer. So it was really important, I think, for you to think about how you present your answer, making sure that you have clarity and follow a plan in your answer, because if you don't, then you're going to limit how the marker is going to be able to answer your question. You can see that there's examples here. This student has provided examples of what different drugs are and how they work. And he was able to relate those back into what the benefits and the limitations of the drug testing were. So there needs to be a connection between what the question's asking and the information that you're putting there. The use of reputable information or factual information here, we can see that the Australian Sports Anti-Doping Association or Agency is referred to, and that's a good thing to be able to do, as long as you have an understanding of what they are.